today's episode of the Carolina Sports Guy, we're going to talk about the Dirty Dozen. The 12 best wide receivers. Let's be a tight end as well. 12 best receivers Carolina Panthers in history. Now, we got one mixed in. I didn't include him like I did with Cam with the running backs. We're going to talk about one person, though, that's really not a receiver or a tight end. It's pretty much in the middle of this ranking and probably going to shatter some records here. But before we do that, YouTube friends and family, if you haven't subscribed to the Carolina Sports Guy, please do so. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. Just go down right there right now and subscribe. Like I said, you're just helping a brother out. Hit that like button. Pound the like button. Let me know you like today's content. I'll be more inspired to put out more videos like what we're covering today. Hit that bell notification. That way, if you do like what you're seeing, you're going to be notified the next time I put out another video, whether it be about the Panthers, the Hornets, the Hurricanes, or other major college sports in the Carolinas. And leave me some comments. Whether it be negative comments, I can take it. I'm a big boy. Uncle Chucky's not scared. Or if you'd just like to give me a comment to keep everything abreast and upbeat, let me know what you think about this content, and I'll be more inspired to put more out just like it. Okay, folks, today's video we're going to talk about, I call them the Dirty Dozen. Now, there's about 5 or 6 people I'm going to talk about at first that didn't make the list. I put an asterisk by them, and the reason why is because if you start doing digging, some of them you might wonder, well, I knew he wouldn't be on the list. Others you might think, my God, I just knew he would have been on there. If we had 13 people on the list, number 13 would have probably been Rocket Ishmael. Early on in Panthers history, a sighted receiver from Notre Dame, played the Canadian Football League. He might have played for the Raiders. But he played at Carolina, and he put up some yards, scored some, and had some receptions. But he didn't crack the top 12. Willie Green. Man, the first few years of this franchise, Willie Green made some crucial catches. He was a big-time receiver for this organization. Can't thank him enough for the contributions that he made to this team. Chris Mangum. Chris Mangum was a really decent tight end. No, he wasn't, Olsen, or he wasn't Wesley Walsh, but he was just a solid contributor that we had on offense. He really was crucial in coming down with some key catches. Kerry Colbert. Now, this is one guy that surprised me. I put him on here. Didn't think he had numbers that good. His rookie campaign was pretty good. He looked nice. He's just very disappointing after that. I met him in training camp one year. Nice guy. He just never lived up to expectations and just couldn't get it done. And the only reason why I got him up here is because when you start looking at, the top 15, 16 guys, he's up in that range. Finally, Ricky Proehl. Now, Ricky Proehl, definitely, if he played his whole career with the Panthers, it definitely probably been top 5, no doubt, top 5 or 6. Ricky Proehl played many of his years for the Rams when they were in St. Louis. He got a Super Bowl ring there, of course, college football-wise. He played at Wake Forest. Comes to the Panthers. Very crucial receiver. We had Lucid Mohammed here, Super Bowl 38, looked really good. A young Steve Smith. Ricky Proehl was another receiver that kind of coached those guys up, especially Steve Smith. And he was a key third down receiver, contributor. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he scored in the Super Bowl. But I know he did have a playoff touchdown. But Ricky Proehl was a very crucial part of this team getting the Super Bowl 38. But he just didn't crack the list, guys, because he didn't play the majority of his career in Carolina. All right, we'll kind of work our way up, start at number 12 on the Dirty Dozen here. Number 12, Donald Hayes. Early to mid-years we had Donald Hayes. I believe he played his college ball at Wisconsin. He was drafted by the Panthers. He had 132 receptions for the Panthers. And I believe that ranks number 11 all-time for the Panthers. Why is he 12? Well, I kind of looked at yardage. He had 1,855 yards in his time with the Panthers, which is 12th. And he had 7 touchdowns for the Panthers, which also ranks as 12th. So Donald Hayes, he does make that Dirty Dozen. Number 11, Ted Ginn Jr. Many of y'all will remember him. He played for the Dolphins. I believe he was drafted by the Dolphins. I say he played for someone else, but he came to the Panthers before he ended up going to the Saints. But Ted Ginn Jr. was very explosive for the Panthers. Now, Got him 11 in yardage, is 2,047 yards. He was the deep burner that Cam Newton had the Super Bowl year. Made some crucial catches. Of course, he also dropped some touchdowns he should have had as well. But he ended up 11 on the list here, or number 10, I'm sorry, with receptions, 134 receptions. But listen, he was 6th all-time in receiving touchdowns with 19. So he was a threat to score. If he caught one and had any type of leeway, he was going to score. So his touchdowns probably make him higher on the list than number 11. But like I said, when you put in the yardage, when you start looking at the receptions, the touchdowns are really higher than those two. So we're going to stick him at number 11. Number 10. Number 10 is Curtis Samuel. And I love old Curtis Samuel. I hated to see him go to the Washington football team this year. But we weren't going to be able to pay him what he needed. And I think we're kind of holding on to the money for DJ Moore when the season's over. At least I hope so. We drafted a couple of young receivers. Like I said, I wish we had Samuel for one more year. He kind of started slow. He had some injuries for us. But look, Samuel, 185 receptions. And that actually ranks pretty high. That's like number 6. 185 receptions. He was 10th all-time with yardage, 2,087 receiving yards. And number 8 with touchdowns. He had 14 receiving touchdowns. And he blossomed this past year, even with the quarterback controversies we had. If we could have had him healthy and Cam healthy way back when, I could have seen this guy sticking around a lot longer. And I definitely could have seen the numbers being a lot higher. Number 9, I was a little shocked, but at the same time, no, was Devin Funchess. Devin Funchess was 9th all-time in receiving yards at 2,233 yards. He was also 9th all-time in receptions, 161 receptions. And look, number 5 all-time in touchdowns. I didn't realize he had so many touchdowns for the Panthers. He had 21 touchdowns. Now, I do remember when he dropped, when he was injured in the playoffs against Saints, and Cam was doing everything he could to keep us in the game. He was interfered with, I believe, by the Saints. Only had one good arm anyway, but I still think he could have cradled with the one arm and scored, and we'd have won that game. But needless to say, he didn't, and maybe that's why we moved on. Number 8, Brandon LaFell. Brandon LaFell had 2,385 receiving yards in his career with the Panthers at LSU. We drafted him. He had 167 receptions, could be 164. Which ranks 8th on the list of all-time receptions. He was number 10 all-time in touchdowns. He had 13 touchdowns, which could actually almost say he was 9th, I guess, because he's tied with somebody else. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. Number 7 on the list. Number 7 on the list is Kelvin Benjamin. First-round draft pick out of Florida State, had an impressive rookie year. I just knew with Cam throwing the ball high, needing a big target receiver, Benjamin looked the part. Man, he looked like a monster. Blew his knee out in the Super Bowl year, didn't even play a game in the regular season. Man, we could have used him in the Super Bowl that year. But hindsight's 2020. I go back and look. If Cam would have had him in the regular season, we might have lost a couple of those games because Cam might have depended on him too much. But he did have 2,424 receiving yards, which was, I want to say, was 7th all time. His receptions, though, were like 118. Okay? 118. Or could be 108. But anyway, his receptions were a little low. But he did score 18 touchdowns, which ranks 7th on our list. So, Benjamin, there he is at number 7. Number 6 on the list, really good receiver. I think he played for Cleveland as well, Mark Carrier, early on in his career. At 2,547 yards. He was 7th in receptions with 176, and he was tied for 9th. I got him down 10, but it was 2 guys that with 13 touchdowns, him and Brandon LaFell. So Mark Carrier was 6th on this list we had for receivers. Early on, a very important wide receiver we had in our history. Now, I get right here, and I got to take a moment and pause. Because there's a player on our roster that's played 4 years, and basically, folks, really only played 3 because last year the guy only played 3 games and was injured. Scored 6 touchdowns in those 3 games. I think 3 of them were receiving touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, running back. If McCaffrey keeps playing, and even though he's a running back, The more we use him in the slot and catching balls in the backfield, my God, the guy has already got 320 receptions, which is only 4 behind number 4 guy on the list. And if he'd have played more games last year, he'd have shattered it. He'd be at number 4 in receptions. 2,672 yards, would rank 6th. And my God, the guy's got 16 touchdowns receiving in his 4 years, basically 3 and change for the Panthers, which would be 7th all-time in touchdown receptions. If this guy plays, 4 or 5 more years for the Panthers and has the same level of production, taking out that injured year, if that doesn't happen again, man, this guy's really going to move up the list. It could be the 2nd, 3rd, 4th best receiver we've ever had, and he knows our running back. So that's pretty impressive. I just wanted to throw it out there because it is impressive. Now, our 5th running back is still with the team. DJ Moore. 3,156 yards. A lot of receiving yards. Very impressive. Receptions, 5th on the list as well. 208 receptions. Like I said, he really would have been replaced by McCaffrey, but we're not looking at running backs. And his touchdowns, this thing is kind of slacking. He's on 11th on the team all time in receiving touchdowns. He's got 10. He gets the yardage, folks. I really see him with Sam Darnold really getting in that end zone more. Now, the top 4 is where it's really going to be at, folks, because when we look at these top 4, we're going to really look at the best receivers this franchise has ever had. Number 4 would be Wesley Walsh. 3,902 receiving yards, just 4th all-time. 324 receptions, 4th all-time. 44 touchdowns, which is 3rd all-time. Wesley Walsh, a receiver / tight end, a guy had great hands. Steve Berline, his early years, played with Steifert was there, I believe, the beginning of the John Fox era. Probably was even there, I believe, with we had Don Capers, Number 3, Greg Olsen. Man, if Greg would have played his whole career for Carolina, his first few years in Chicago, where could he have been on this list? He ranks 3rd all-time in receiving yards, 6,463 yards. He's got 524 receptions, 3rd all-time for the Carolina Panthers. Now, he's 4th all-time in touchdown passes called receiving, 39. But my God, man, the guy, if he had somebody to throw to after Cam got hurt, I'm sure the last couple of years he was here that Greg Olsen would have got in the 40s without a doubt. All right, we get to the top 2. Number 2, Lucid Mohammed out of Michigan State. Early on in career, I believe he was actually drafted in her 2nd draft, 2nd round out of Michigan State. 9,255 yards, 2nd all-time. 696 receptions, 2nd all-time. 50 receiving touchdowns, 2nd all-time. Lucid Mohammed, man, very crucial to Super Bowl 38. He was a player, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if he didn't have a Triple Crown one year, he was close, but my God, man, him and Jake Delhomme had some great games together, and I really appreciate it. I still have his white. First jersey I bought was a Lucid Mohammed jersey when I went to Ericsson Stadium, which is now Bank of America Stadium. And the number 1 wide receiver of all time, Triple Crown winner, great player, ice up son, Steve Smith Sr. Drafted, I want to say in the 3rd round, out of Utah as a kick returner. Scored his first touchdown against Minnesota. We won 1-15 that year, won the first game on a kick return. First time he touched the ball. But receiving wise, he played with Jake, he played with Cam, he played for everybody in between. 836 receptions all time for the Carolina Panthers, number 1. 12,197 yards, number 1 for the Panthers. 67 receiving touchdowns, number 1 for the Panthers. Steve Smith Sr. The man needs a statue. Hall of Fame material in my viewpoint. And I missed the guy. Did Dave Gettleman let him go? I know it was for Cam's growth. I know we were moving in a different direction. But man, blood and guts. When this team struggled, we didn't have an identity. Jake Delhomme pulled us up by the bootstraps. The defense would hold on and claw it out. Steve Smith was that little guy that would knock somebody's block off. I didn't ever worry about going into a fight and being intimidated as long as we had Steve Smith out there on the field. Okay, so what do you guys think of today's content? Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Hit that bell notification to be notified for more content like this. Leave me some comments down there in the comments section. Let me know what you would like to also see. And by all means, folks, please subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. And we'll catch you next time on another episode of Carolina Sports.